Hey, friends, we're starting our international business meeting. So, I'm sure everybody's aware that we gave our very first report and it was not very well received. And so, basically, listen, our assembly is still very young and we know that everybody's still learning. The main thing that happened at the meetings were that the actual objection was regarding the committee work. And the correct action would have just been that, they want us to reconsider our standards because the committees don't have any standard requirements. And then they should have sent it back to committee and then we could just easily remediate that. But that isn't what happened. And instead, it turned into a personal attack against me and, whether or not I'm an ASC and all this other stuff. So, first of all, I don't know that they know if we have a vetting committee, how the vetting committee works, how to go to the vetting committee.
Before we go
Sure, I'm almost done. I was just going to say that they should go to the vetting committee or they should have privately asked me what to do, which they did not, or what I did or what my situation is, and no one did. So as far as what they want to see from us in terms of, Anna wrote an article about that. So, sure, we can do that. I also recommend and suggest, it's my encouragement for us, that we just literally yield and go back to studying and learning until Anna puts out the International Business Assembly Handbook. And until then, I don't think that we should be reporting at all and that we should just be studying, which that's all we've been doing anyway. So
just to be clear, when we have an assembly meeting, and that's what it was an assembly meeting and an opportunity for each of the spokespeople to report on what their committees are doing. Also, in those sessions, other spokespeople of the different committee of the General Assembly have not only the right, but an obligation to address concerns that maybe they hear and to have an open dialogue. That is the purpose. We may not have liked some of the things either that were said or maybe the tone of which some of the things were mentioned, but that is the platform. That is our government. That is how it's supposed to work. And actually, that session was a pretty strong learning experience for the entire assembly. And you even saw towards the end a willingness to work together to resolve the issue. So just because somebody hears something in a meeting, they are not to sit back and be quiet. They are to raise the issue. And we do have to always remember that each living man and woman in these meetings, including ours here, we're all kings and we're all queens, and we should refer and talk to each other in that manner. So this is not a situation that would go to an ombudsman committee. The ombudsman has nothing to do with this. This is in the public. This is amongst the people. The vetting is a whole different situation that we can talk about at other assembly meetings. We don't have an official vetting committee. Actually, we're starting one.
Lavelle, may I?
yes, please.
So I just wanted to, I went back and listened to the recording, and I just want to put on record, there were some objections. For example, they said that you had stated that there needed to be an application, but you never said that. But there was objections, I think, from Cherry Hall, Robert, Scott, and Corey that had objected to that. But I think Gwen was the first one to ask the question of, are you saying there needs to be an application? I think that was a misunderstanding there too, because you didn't actually say that. Also, when it came to the marriage, I think everybody was upset about that, the marriage thing, 20 years, and you have to have kids and I think a family. But at the end of that, Nethi also said, or similar experiences. So there were others, I think Robert Scott, he had put an objection to that. And I think Corey did too. I didn't look at all of them. So there were objections to those, but at the end of, I think everybody heard the beginning, but they didn't hear at the end, it was or similar experiences. And of course, I don't fit that criteria, and here I am. So I just wanted to make sure that, that we understand that information, those information about the application was muddy because Nethi never said anything about the application. And then the marriage and family, no one listened to the end. So I don't know, as an assembly, are we okay? Do we still keep the objections, even though that information wasn't correct. But so I just wanted to, bring that out as far as the application, that there was a problem with that, objection about that, and about the marriage.
Yeah, this is Rohit. I just think that, I agree with what Dominic is saying, that is the forum to voice your concerns, whatever they may be, or issues that come up during the open session of I guess it's not technically a town hall, but similar thing. But I just feel like everybody was, and I just heard the recording, but it was more than just attacking the topic, I guess, of the group. It was like personal attacks on Neethi, and I don't understand why that wasn't put to a stop. Obviously, I wasn't there that night, but I'm just wondering, is there a moderator or somebody that says, okay, like you can discuss the topic at hand, which may be about the committee itself, but the personal attacks shouldn't be condoned, I guess, or you take it to a different forum, right? Maybe they should be discussed, but not at that time.
I guess the only thing I got out of it is let me back up. I tend to agree with what Rohit said, that maybe there should have been some sort of, some sort of moderation. Because, I'm learning the process myself, and I don't want us to kind of, or maybe the assembly and all this, to reach the point where we're kind of sniping back and forth. So I don't know if that's a naive attitude towards it, but just some sort of moderation to keep things a little calmer and level-headed. It's probably my only perspective on it. So I yield.
So being the one that was moderating that part of the meeting, you gotta allow people to talk and get out what is on their mind, what their concerns are. Again, some people have voices that are a little bit stronger, some not so much. Some are a little bit whiny, others are direct and to the point. Nobody was nasty as far as calling names. If we don't allow people to speak, we're operating against everything that Anna speaks about. Matter of fact, most recently, she wrote a couple of them, particularly with Michigan and a couple other states that she was having issues with, where the coordinator or moderators were forbidding people to speak up. And one of her quotes is that she'll fight for everybody to have their freedom to speak. And that's one of the things that, whether I'm moderator or the coordinator, we're going to give everybody the opportunity to speak. Again, I can't control exactly what comes out of their mouth. There was no swearing. There's nobody that got really out of line. One or two that maybe got a little more long-winded than should have. But I'd rather err on the side of allowing people to talk and to get it out in the open so it can be discussed and everything is in the public. I've been called every name in the book, from some people that are still here on our assembly active, and some that have decided to leave. And in some cases, because we kept them to the process, I never forbid anybody to speak, but I did correct them and not allow them to hijack our process, our agenda, and what is going on in the assembly. So that's always going to be. So long as I'm the coordinator, I'm going to do my best to make sure that people have the right to speak. Again, there's a lot of things that come my way that I don't like it. I don't like the tone. I don't like the verbiage that's being used. But at the same time, deal with it and I'll shake it off. And then at the end of the day, if we know in our heart and our soul that we are doing everything that we possibly can according to the blueprint that we have, and if we discover or are made aware that something isn't the way it should be, and it potentially could harm us, then we have to course correct. And the best thing I've found as a leader over many years in big operations, you're better off to acknowledge that you were wrong, a mistake was made. And for many of us, they're honest mistakes, right? They're honest. And then we course correct and we move forward. If we continue the battle, all we're doing is spinning on a hamster wheel. I think the points that Nabel brought out are good, valid points. By the way, I haven't had a chance to re-listen to that because I've been involved in doing a couple other things to kind of research some of this stuff so that my understanding as a coordinator is more grounded on what we need to do. So I took the time to do some of that. But it's fair to share with the assembly some of what was learned or what you perceive other people heard, because again, we don't know what they've heard in their mind, but I think your point, Lavelle, is valid, that often we hear the front end of a comment and we don't listen to it totally through because our mind has reacted to the front part and we're getting ready to fire back and we don't ever hear the finished thought. So those are all part of the learning process that everybody in the assembly needs to be aware of.
And, when I came across that and I was, listening to that, I just wonder, as an assembly, are we okay? Because of course I have to put myself in those shoes. If this will be done to any of us, me included. And so if this information isn't correct, and I want to say it was the next day these objections were sent. So we didn't have an opportunity to come back here now and discuss it and correct it, but it was like the next day objections. So this will stay, for example, it would stay in my file and the information is incorrect. I don't know how this goes. Like, are we going to be okay with this information that I just put out that was wrong information that everybody fired off and put objections? Are we going to be okay with letting that stay in my file and it's incorrect?
So everything that goes on is a part of the public record. Okay. So it's now, how does this committee respond to it? This is just my thought process here. You as a committee are going to do what you feel you need to do. And of course, then the assembly is going to do what they feel they need to do. How you respond is really going to dictate what the future holds. So, for example, there are certain things that need to be corrected. Now, we agree with the fact that they need to be corrected and we correct it. And we have a dialogue and we put on the record the rebuttal of some of those things, and that becomes a part of the record. Remember, we're not incorporated. We don't have a CEO that's going to say, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, because we went into your HR files and all this stuff is there. What the concern would be with any living man or woman who has desires to advance somehow in representing our government as we're building these 4 pillars and we stand up, is the assembly is going to remember how you responded and how you reacted. And at some point in time in the future, when we're at that point, when we have fully operational vetting committee and we go to public elections, what is the public's perception? What does the public remember? What does the public see in the public records about how you handled the situation? So I wouldn't necessarily, Lavelle, be concerned about the objections. There are always going to be objections. Is there merit to the objections? If there are, you address it, correct it, course correct, and move forward. If you hide it, fight it, and then, there's documentation out there that proves that you're totally wrong and you're fighting this battle, and people are going to remember that too. So it's up to you on how you're going to deal with it as a committee with that idea.
Our assembly is still very young, and this is evidenced in the demonstration we all witnessed in the last 2 meetings. I mean, Dominic's only talking about the last one and not about the one before that. When we're conducting this business of our government, there's no reason for anybody to really be so enraged by anything a committee reports. I mean, if we're just not in agreement with the performance of the committee, we really just need to send the work back to the committee. And our government structure is really wonderful in this regard. And so I am thankful for what happened over the last 2 weeks, because this pressure test demonstrated several things, including, and not limited to, we found out that our General Assembly does not know we have a vetting committee or we don't have a vetting committee. And I don't think we have one. Although when I was asked to, come into this position, then I did, in fact, ask if I could even be in this position. Not only did I ask Dominic, and we went over all my paperwork and stuff, but also I asked Anna. Everybody gets upset when I say that I ask Anna things, but whatever the answers were, I provided that text communication to Dominic. So he had her responses in front of him, which I'm assuming he still has. And I also, whenever we have conversations with Anna, then we record them. And so it isn't hearsay, and it isn't like me trying to, I'm not dropping names. Like, this isn't California. This isn't Hollywood. I'm not trying to like play like I know somebody or anything. And I'm not seeking favor. So, but what I found is that the people in our assembly don't have faith or confidence in the authority of the Federation or even their vetting process, which begs the question about how much faith they have in Justice Anna Maria, because there are people who believe that I have commandeered Anna's time, detracting her from her actual work, which, if that's even possible, like, what does that say about her or about the rest of us who are following what she's teaching us? Like, this was written in one of the objections that, like Lavelle said, just came up the next day. Before, we weren't asked to go back to committee, which is all that should have been said. B, they accused me of all kinds of stuff. But listen, hey, I have seen that most of the people are still operating out of fear. They're making decisions like based on gossip and hearsay and not actual research or facts being gathered before people just are writing objections and throwing out accusations without any factual basis. Robert even said in the last meeting that he didn't have time to listen to even the first meeting that we ever had. So he's never listened to any of the recordings. He doesn't know what we talked about. He just wrote like a whole like 2-page essay about me that was a complete 100% personal attack that was based on his opinion. And so that's the corporate mindset that's running rampant. And I just appreciate everybody charging me. I appreciate them pushing me to publicly have to defend my good name, because it just reminded me of Psalms 119:71, where it's, it was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. And it's written, in context, it says, though the arrogant have smeared me with lies, I keep your precepts with all my heart. Their hearts are callous and unfeeling, but I delight in your law. It was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. The law from your mouth is more precious to me than thousands of pieces of silver and gold. Your hands made me and formed me. Give me understanding to learn your commands. So I've had to definitely, look at what I'm doing. And, I read every single one of the objections. I've been called a deceiver, accused of building my business off the state. I've been accused of self-promotion, being a one-woman committee, which should be offensive to all of you who are here. I am supposedly connected to government providing for-profit services that I'm providing them with. I have some sort of licenses for a business. People who don't have time to learn about my actual business or listen to these committee meeting recordings presume to know what I do or what we talked about in the meetings. I've been accused of being a liar and much, much more. So then I go to Matthews 10:22. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And the legal maxim from Matthew 10:22, which says, he who does not repel a wrong when he can occasions it. So the only reason I'm responding to any of this, and the only reason that I didn't just completely quit working on the committee at all, is because of that. Because on May 6th, I was presenting a report to the General Assembly and was casually talking and just telling everybody what we had been doing. And I was immediately verbally ambushed. And the inflammatory rhetoric that was posted in the chat bearing false witness about me also was not true. And this was followed by the coordinator receiving objections filled with slanderous personal feelings about me, with absolutely no facts regarding my qualifications to participate in service on our International Business Assembly. So the actual objection started, about our committee work, and correct action would have simply been to say, go back to committee and reconsider the standards, because our committees don't have any standards. And then we would have just remediated that, because we have no personal reasons, or we want to do a good job. But that wasn't what happened. And instead, it turned into this whole personal thing. Every single one of those objections is a personal attack. And I object to that. And I get to object to that, because there's no reason for someone, I don't know who's going to stand as a speaker for any committee and come to a business meeting and then be personally attacked in that way. It's just ridiculous. But I just want everybody to know that I didn't seek this position. I was asked to serve, and so I'm doing that. And, we haven't even had the first election on our assembly. Our assembly's too young. So, and all of us are just pro tem volunteers. I was asked to volunteer And so I did. We're not even seated as a state. So we're not even close to that. We're just studying and learning things. And asked Anna about this pillar because I was asked to help with it. And when I did, then she said, you know what? I'm not going to write articles about this pillar. Do you want to help me write the handbook for it? And so we're working on it. And I kept feeling every time that we would have a business meeting, that I should share what we're working on. That was naive of me to believe that I should even get into that. I literally just shared honestly everything that we were talking about. And, everyone took everything I said, turned it around, or miscomprehended what I was saying, misunderstood it. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I'm not okay with, every single time that I say something, I don't need to be bombarded with a bunch of objection letters about my personal business. Then we had an entire meeting dissecting my personal business. That was 100% inappropriate. I didn't say a single word. And at the end of the day, the document that Gwen sent me that she wanted me to fill out was literally just asking me to change a status with the IRS, who I have no relationship with. And my business doesn't either. So I have printed all those documents out. I've presented them and sent them to Dominic for him to have on the record. I sent it to Loria for her to put on the record. I sent all the documentation for them to put it on the record with all the objections so everybody can just see that. And, I'm not going to stop serving Anna unless she just doesn't want to work with me, or she feels like I shouldn't be working with her, but I will not take this much time again out of my life to have to defend something like this. I just won't put myself in a position for that. I'm busy. I actually have a lot of work to do with my business, and my family needs me. And we're we're expanding the work that we do, which I have done for 16 years out of the goodness of my heart. I do not make profit on that. I don't make money doing that at all. My husband will tell you that I do not make any money at all. We live off of his income. So I am not dissolving the actual corporate entity, because if I change the structure of the entity, it will require me to file for another EIN, which I don't want. So if I change the structure of the entity from what it is right now, which already the IRS has, divorced me. Like, I don't have a relationship with them, but, and they don't recognize me. And my husband and I both have personally also noticed the IRS that we are not participating anymore. But since I started the business, the only reason that I incorporated was I didn't know how else to serve people with truth except for to form a church, which is the big trick. Like, they trick all the churches into incorporating and that's the reason why every church has incorporated, because that's the only way to speak truth. And it's a trick by the corporatocracy. I admit that I fell for it, but I really didn't know how else to be able to protect my family and my children if I wanted to serve families that had children that were being murdered by the corporatocracy. And so I have dedicated my entire life since they poisoned, tortured, and murdered my daughter. That's what they did. And when they did that, then we decided that we didn't care about anything else in our lives except for to not watch any more babies be poisoned and murdered and tortured, and families to be harmed in the way that they were doing. And so we have very stupidly spent the last 16 years serving everyone for free. Actually, it cost us money. It cost my husband over $160,000 to pay for our PhD. I call it my PhD because we literally paid for an education to learn, what we had to sacrifice to be able to teach other people so that they could stop being harmed. So with that, I don't know what you guys all want to do. I don't really need to be a speaker here. That's not going to change my citizenship status. You know, what I think these people don't actually know is that if you are an American state citizen, you are part of this pillar. You are already sitting in this assembly no matter what. And so that's not going to change anything for me. But I am not going to go through all this drama and headache and serve people who are not interested in my talent, or who are not in need of my talent, who don't need anything that I have to offer and don't want it. Like, I don't need to impose myself on somebody. And I'm not going to do that, because I have a whole world of people that need my help, who I have dedicated my life to serving, and who I will continue to serve. But I did not leave the battlefield when they attacked me. I stayed, and I'm not going to leave until they comprehend that I am not the threat, that they believe that I am. And that's all. That is all. So, I mean, what would you like to do? I would like to hear from all of you, because I'm not a one-woman committee. I didn't just make this stuff up, and you guys are all here for some reason. So Solomon and Rohit and Lavelle, what do you guys want to do? How do y'all want to proceed? Because, you know, I'm not going to continue to be, I don't have energy for this. I'm busy. So is somebody else interested in being the speaker? I'm happy to help do the work. I'm still working with Anna, unless she tells me she doesn't want me to help her. If she doesn't want me to help her, I'll stop helping her too. It's fine. I have things to do. My husband will tell you that he will appreciate me not wasting all my energy, because he has to live with all the minimum amount of time I have to offer the family. Rohit, do you have something to say about this? I yield.
Yeah, I'd like to just say that, I mean, I think that maybe we should pick a different spokesperson for the committee, and you can obviously still be on the committee, but I don't think it should be me, just because of the viewpoint. You know, people will think that I'm just going to be a puppet, and so I think it really should be somebody else. But obviously, we're all working as a group, as a team, to make this committee strong and all that. But honestly, since there's only 3 of us on it, then it should be either Solomon or Lavelle to be the spokesperson. And really, like Niti said, we're still learning, right? So there's really not much to say at the meetings when we have to update when we have the committee updates. There's not much to say right now. It would literally just be, yeah, we're still studying and learning, and that would be the end of it. There doesn't need to be a whole big production about what's going on and what are we studying and what are we learning. We did that same thing with the jural pillar. While they were reading and learning, that was their update. They're still reading and learning until we have something to say, to concretely say, okay, this is what we're putting in place, or we have some documentation that needs approval from the committee or something like that. That's the only time that we need to say something. That might be, I don't know, 2 weeks down the road, or it might be 2 years down the road. Who knows right now? We're still studying and learning.
Lavelle.
Okay, so going back to what you said in the very, very beginning of we'll just present to the people. It's no criteria. Whoever's going to be vetted, let the vetting committee handle that, and that solves that, right? I think you were saying something along the lines of that. Since everyone didn't listen to your when you said about the marriage and the children and the family, but you also said, or similar experiences, nobody heard that. So if we just put a blanket, no criteria, whoever steps forward, they have to be vetted, and we just leave it at that. So that's what I think on that. And I think when tomorrow comes, or whenever we clarify everything, I think we should clarify about the wrong information about the application, for example, where people were putting in objections. So you got people in their minds still with wrong information, like clearing up those wrong informations. I think, like I said, Gwen said, is there an application? And everybody took that as, oh, you have to have an application, and put rebuttals in. So just clearing that up, the marriage thing up. It's no criteria. If you want to work, come work, just be vetted. I am concerned. Well, no, I take that back. It is going to be interesting to see who will step up and do help, because this very same thing can happen to them. You know, you're coming, you roll up your sleeves to help, and this very well what could happen. So you have to have thick skin. So I don't have any plan on being a spokesperson here. I'll just say no to that. Not you.
So, may I?
Sure.
So this is where the rub is right now. In the text message that you provided me in your conversation with Anna, this is what she's talking about, the rub. The rub is the fact that you're incorporated.
Ma'am, that is not, she said, if you are reliant on this income, I don't have any income. Let's just be very clear about that.
I'm going to, let me finish.
She said, if you're reliant on the income, that is what it says.
It goes beyond that. I'm going to give you 3 additional articles to read, where she's pretty clear on
I
that.
mean, but in all cases, quit. So I yield. I mean, I'm not leading this committee.
Okay.
I'm not going to be the spokesperson of this committee, no matter what. I'm busy. I just want to make sure everybody comprehends 2 things. A, all of their objections were personal slanderous statements against me. A, they called me a liar and a deceiver, which I am not. I am not a liar and I am not a deceiver at all. I did nothing to try to trick my way into being here. And I have no time to be trying to constantly come up against these people and try to let them, I mean, they either want my help or they don't want my help on the assembly. I don't need the aggravation. I'm busy.
Okay. So there's 3 articles then, just on this recording for the record. Article 2684, corporations are the problem. Article 3609, if your business is incorporated, it's not private.
And I also said I had to be able to keep my banking account. She said no one will volunteer, Dominic. She also said, which you didn't pull this part up, she also said if banking requirement, if everybody has to close their bank account to be able to volunteer, no one will volunteer. So
I didn't yield, but article number 3932 for y'all, which she speaks about corporation. So that's the rub. With that being said, you're not stepping back from being the chair of this particular pillar. At this time, I'm going to disband the International Committee to allow us to regroup and to strategize how we want to move forward with this particular committee. So effective at the end of this meeting, the International Pillar is on hold. With that, I yield.
Can you take this image from the chat and include it on the record, please, Dominic? Oh, that's not the right one. Hold on. Anna said, if closing all your bank accounts was a requirement of being an SC, we would have no SCs. Tell those people to use their heads. I said, I think it's the business that's registered, the nonprofit, which is tied to my business merchant account. She said, again, if we had to disqualify everyone on the basis because they made the mistake of incorporating a business, we would lose all the churches and most of the business people in every assembly. It's certainly advisable to disentangle yourself. Most businesses do that by starting a new unincorporated business on the side and gradually moving everything over to the new endeavor. I have done all of that. So this is from her. That's her text that you can put in on the record, because there's nobody who can volunteer if that is a requirement. And so I just want that to be on the record. There's no business people will be able to volunteer. And with that, Lavelle has a business and she has an LLC. So everybody would have to dissolve their things. My problem is that the account that I have set up under that EIN pays farmers, individual living men and women. And I don't even do business with corporations. I only do business with living men and women. And I have only been doing that for the last 16 years. The only reason I made the mistake of incorporating was because I had no other way that I was aware of to be able to speak to the general population freely without being threatened with, litigation. And that is literally the only reason that I set it up. These folks can't comprehend that. There is absolutely no rule that if you have a business or you own a business that you can't be a state citizen. And Anna says that intention means everything. And she said also that if you, have the correct intention and that, she said that matters as well. And I'll share that with you. I want it on the record because it needs to be on the record for anybody who is running a business. Because this isn't just going to affect me. Until the Global Family Bank is up and running properly, I can't 100% disentangle. This is my last step. The moment that it's ready, I have a vendor account already set up over there. And this is what I've been saying from the beginning. But I sent evidence that I have no relationship with the IRS anymore, which is the documentation that Gwen sent me that she wanted me to file. I don't even need to file what she sent me because they don't even recognize me anymore. And so if I give them one more piece of paper, I'm just contracting with them again. So I don't want to do that. I just want to make that point clear. That's all.
Val, may I?
Sure.
So that our business is the way that we make money to pay for bills. So there's absolutely no way I'm going to not be able to make money to be in the assembly, working. So if that's the case, I absolutely have no problem if they want to, kick me off or whatever, because I have to work. And so if I have an LLC, I don't know if it's a problem or not, I'm just putting it on there for the record. I have to make, to not make money and to deal with this, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I just want to put that, on the record.
And what about like my husband who works for the corporatocracy because he has to support our family? He's not quitting his job to do anything here. So, go ahead, Cynthia.
What is the name of Lavelle's business? I wasn't aware she had a limited liability corporation. What is the name of that?
It's Milka Conceal Carry. But I talked to, I think I sent it to Dominique, and I sent it, I think I sent it to a few people where I have a clip of Anna on the recording on Rumble. I want to say it was March 21st, where she literally says people make a big deal about that, but the real issue, you can have businesses. She named the real estate licenses. She named all of these licenses. She says, but they just can't have a conflict of interest with what they're doing in the assembly. She literally says, and I sent it to Dominic. I have to look at it again because that's what I sent to him before I came onto the pillar.
And I also want everyone to know, I had a meat handler's license that I tried to give back to them because that license was causing me to get harassed by the USDA and the FDA and the CDC, and everybody would show up. And now I'm no longer on that list, I sent y'all a big old email today with a whole bunch of documentation to show that my license is no longer even being recognized, and I've been removed by the NCDA, which is the North Carolina Department of Agriculture's meat handler license, whatever. They've removed me 100% from there finally, because I couldn't give them their doggone license back for the longest time. And finally, they removed me from it because I said, just remove me from your website because I don't want your license. I'm not participating with your license. I will not allow inspection. I will not comply. I do not comply. I do not comply. And so they finally have taken me off of there. Rohit, you have your hand up, honey.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you're going to hold Niti up to the requirement of having an LLC and all that, then that needs to apply to every single other committee member, period. Just period. So if they have to be off of the committee, then they have to be off the committee. It can't just be a one-way, like against Niti or somebody specific in general. If you're going to do it, it's going to have to be for every single person in the committee. I just want that on the record, because then it does seem like you're targeting a specific person. I yield.
Yes, may I?
Now, I want to say one thing about that too, Dominic, is that Anna also said that this pillar is most likely or traditionally would have been run with retired individuals. So Solomon is retired. Okay. And so he did work for the EPA. He did have licenses probably with them or whatever. He is 100% retired. He does not work for them anymore because there were any list of objections against all of us or whatever. They included that there's hints of other people. First of all, again, I am not a liar or a deceiver, and I rebuke that. I am not a liar or a deceiver. I have no reason to lie. I do not profiteer off of this assembly. Only give everything that I can. And I am not giving any more to people who don't want it, if that's the case, because all I do is give and grow the assembly. That's all I do. I don't charge the assembly money for opening up my commercial space. I don't charge them money for my time that I have to spend there for the whole time that it's open. My husband doesn't charge a dime. He doesn't want to do that every Saturday or whatever that we do it, but we do. We do it because it's our moral obligation. We do it out of the goodness of our heart. And if you can't receive our heart, then that's fine too. We will stop doing that as well. But what I know is that if the only person that wants my help is Anna because she can see past all of that and she can see our intention, then that's fine too. However, this has to go. We have no desire at all to operate in immorality. And I refuse to allow someone to slander me. I yield.
Yes, I mean, for me, none of those things are an issue. What I have to deal with is the incorporated and how it deals with a citizen. And when we were in the discussions and having even the conversations with Anna, well, at least I felt like we were okay with what we were doing. But as these objections have, not only these objections, but prior to in other situations on the definition of an American state citizen, and you're exactly right. She did mention not only in an article, but I believe on one of the podcasts, or even maybe it was one of the after discussion, where she made the comment, you'll be surprised how few living men and women will qualify to be American state citizens. He was pretty clear on that. So, and she did mention that the majority of them would end up being retired people because they had no other outside forces. So what I have to deal with is the incorporated piece, whether it's non-for-profit or not, that's the issue. And so, Lavelle, yeah, you're in the same boat. He is not, even though he works in a corporation, he is not a corporation. He doesn't control what the corporation does. So he would not be affected. But
He
I think
is an officer on my nonprofit.
I'm talking about the company that he works for.
I'm
But-
saying he sits on my board.
So therefore, yes, he would in that respect. I was responding to the piece about the business where he works right now outside of the Farm for Folk. So I think right now, until we get either more clarity, move forward with disbanding this particular committee, and we reevaluate, have some additional discussions, maybe conversation further with Anna, and we'll see what happens there. But I think right now the best thing, especially after these 3 articles that I spent time looking up myself, because I wasn't going to depend upon any 1 or 2 or 3 people having a dialogue and then believing what they say. You know me, I'm going to take my time and search it out. With everything else that I had to do this weekend for the assembly, I took time to research, and these 3 articles that I'm presenting to you, I do make it much more clear. So that's what we have to do at this particular point in time.
Lavelle, may I?
Sorry, go ahead, Lavelle.
Dominique, I'm gonna send again, it's like 2 or 3 minutes that Anna specifically speaks about the LLC. I'll send that. It's like I say, 2 or 3 minutes. And either way it goes, it's, it's okay because, I'll get more time. So I'm not offended at all, whichever way that it goes. I yield.
Thank you. I appreciate you sending that, Lavelle.
Yeah, I don't care about anything, but what I am still wanting an answer for is all these objections against me personally. They didn't come for the committee, which is ridiculous. Like there's 2 and 3 pages of objections about me personally, and they're lies. So I want something on the record. I mean, I sent you guys documentation. I would appreciate that going on the record. And of course, this meeting's on the record as well. But I refuse to allow people to publicly slander me and then have nothing said about it. That's absolutely absurd. I have a problem with that. And with that, I yield.
All right, so
Also, the problem also, I'm sorry, I'm not yielding yet, because they're just going to hear, okay, we got disbanded. And so, but they can do that to anybody else. I'm going to be interested to see how many people want to step up to be a speaker for any committee. I yield.
Well, we'll find out. With that being said, your committee as a whole also has the right to be able to respond to those objections. And so that you had it written in the record and presented on the record, everything's public. You have the right to do that. And as a committee, you should. Now, keep in mind that they'll have the right to respond to that too. That's how our government works, whether we like it or not. You know, this is not a government where we sit around the campfire at night and sing kumbaya and we just love on each other, right? This can be some tough stuff sometimes. And when situations like this arise and we are faced with, and I'm not talking about perception of lives and all this other stuff, and dig into all that. My main concern is moving forward when it comes time for us to be stood up, if we're sitting here with people on this particular committee. And it does work a little bit differently, I understand, with other committees, but this committee specifically, you have to be a citizen clean as a white chalkboard, never written on before, right? And so that's what has to happen. We got to get that piece of it corrected. So you do have the right to respond, object to their objections, and put that on the record. And the other thing, the one thing I will say, the first meeting, you called it an ambush. I'd be careful on how you present that. And the reason why, an ambush is something that's planned. They had no idea that you were going to report or what you were going to report on. They responded to what you said. An ambush is all planned, it's ready. They're coming after you. So I would be careful to call that first meeting an ambush.
I definitely think we should all write our objections if you're so inclined, Solomon, Rohit, and Lavelle, because they literally acted like y'all didn't even exist. And I definitely will be writing a public notice, and I would like for it to be shared on the agenda, just like all of theirs were shared on the agenda. I would like for mine to be shared on the agenda as well. And with that, I yield.
You got it. It'll be on the agenda this Tuesday. No,
Thank you, Dominic.
I yield.
And I love our government process. I love it. I love that we can do all these things. What I would like to see is our assembly grow and mature into a position to the point where they can just stick to the business and focus on the business. The only thing that they were wanting to say is we shouldn't have a criteria. That's fine. Just say that. The only reason that there's anything else going on here, the only reason for all of this drama or anything, which I don't do drama. Ask my husband. I don't do drama. If I have to do drama, I am not going to participate. I'm not. And that's the reason why I'm saying I'm not doing this. I have work to do. And when I'm working in my business, I don't allow for an ounce of lies or deception. I have a big old sign, Dominic, you have seen it because you come there, that says nothing but the truth. So I operate on the truth. And I'm not saying that I am right about everything. I'm happy to be corrected. Literally was like, fine, yes, okay. Shouldn't have any of these standards. Okay, that we could end that in 2 minutes. That would be easy. And then we could get back to doing our work. But, you know, you want to call me a deceiver? And you want to call me somebody who's commandeering? Anna, I don't think that people even really have looked these words up to know what that means. It's just outrageous. And it is offensive. And I'm alive. I'm a living woman. It hurts. And so, you know, if you just wanted to harm me, then you win. You got me. But I'll serve if people want me to serve. If they don't want me to serve, I don't care. I'm busy. And once the banks are up, then I can come clean as a ASC in the ways, you know, but nobody's really clean until we have financial sovereignty, which is what Anna also said. You must have financial sovereignty to be fully sovereign.
Lavelle, may I?
Yes, you may.
I think we've said everything we need to say. You know, like I put in the chat, I think Social Security checks, people get those in this pillar. They don't have to have an LLC. So that makes sense. So you get some kind of check. That makes sense. But when we all get funded, then we won't have LLCs. And when that time comes, obviously, we're not nowhere near putting our pillars up. So when that time comes, no one will have an LLC. So we're spending a lot of time on this. You know, we're closing it down. We get more time. So it's a blessing in that. And, you know, I'll give a motion to adjourn unless someone has anything else to say.
I just want to say one last thing on that note, that yes, when it's time for us to be able to stand, we will be way further along and we will have come a really long way once we can actually be fully sovereign. And I think the other part that I did not like was that anyone would believe that our committee here of these people that are sitting here right now would ever do anything to threaten or cause harm to our entire assembly. So I resent that as well. And it'll be part of my objection that I write, but I just wanted to put that out there because that was a big deal that was created that caused more fear in the last meeting, which is absurd. It was absurd as well. So with that, did we have a second to adjourn the meeting?
I second.
I think that was Rohit and Solomon. So thank you everybody for your time. We appreciate you.
All right. Rest well, everybody. Enjoy your time. I hear.
So we wanted to circle back and discuss the international business. We've actually disbanded, for now, the International Business Pillar Committee. So there's some course corrections that we need to make, and it has to deal with the citizenry. The question that was brought up, discussed, debated. And so it's important for the entire assembly to know that I've disbanded it for now. And we will continue to do research, and at the right time, we will restart that pillar again. I do want to thank those that stepped up with the knowledge that we had in that time frame to the willingness to roll up their sleeves and get engaged. And I also appreciate the discussion and the debates that have taken place over the last couple of weeks, and to get us to this point, because I believe through this process, we've learned, the entire assembly has learned something through this. We have to take a pause. We have to take a step back. We have to take what we've learned. We have to reset, and then we move forward.
I had the opportunity to listen to the International Business Pillar meeting today, and I would suggest that everybody take the opportunity to go on, listen to it. Neethi did say that she is incorporated, and she did resign her position as the chair on that meeting. And so I just thought that should probably go on record as well.
I didn't really resign the position. What I said was, if North Carolina doesn't want my help, then I am not going to impose it. I also said that any business owner right now isn't going to be able to qualify to manage any of this. And I also said that Anna said that if we were all required to close our bank accounts, then it would disqualify everyone. And I shared that information with everyone in the attachment this evening. And with that, I yield.
So may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So at the marker 4708, in all cases, I quit. In all cases, you said I quit at 4708 on that meeting. And you can be a business owner and still be a citizen. You just can't be incorporated with the Secretary of State on the state you're on. And there's people that have bank accounts that own businesses all day long that aren't incorporated. You do not. So I think the problem that we all need to know is it's a decision. It's a decision. If you were incorporated prior to becoming an American State National, you don't have to disband your business. You don't have to close your bank account. You don't have to give up your business. You can continue to work incorporated. You just can't be an American State citizen with that incorporation. So if you have an LLC, if you have an incorporated business, nonprofit, it doesn't matter. You are not eligible to serve as a citizen in any chair, in any international business pillar member has to be able to qualify as a citizen. And there are, Dominic gave you a bunch of articles that explain why that is the case. But I think it's just really important that everyone understands that.
Through all this, the assembly has become stronger and more experienced. And I would like to say a big thank you for the courage shown by the people that are involved in this. Thank you. I yield.
Anybody else? But the fact does remain that, and this is something for everybody, that is in a spokes people's position, or for those looking to eventually down the road when we get into public elections, is that you've got to be a state citizen, you've got to be clean. And so we are going to take a look at every single position, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. It's not in this time slot, but that every position, and we may find that a number of other people are going to have to step out of spokesperson's positions if they are tied in any way, shape, or form to any kind of incorporation. But this is a piece that we've done a little bit of a deep dive. We understand it now, and we'll talk about vetting later on. It's the incorporation. That's the issue.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. I thought the whole point was that we could be in whatever business or whatever until all our pillars were up, and then we had to be not incorporated or whatever. I thought that was the whole point, because we're all volunteering and in different situations. I yield.
For the it's that you either are a state citizen or you're not. There are also other positions that we are looking into that also require you to be a citizen in order to be elected into certain positions. So we're going to do our research and homework in any one of those positions that require you to be a state citizen. Is you know, we've got to start that practice now. The risk is, if we don't start it from the beginning, if we don't, as we're learning, if we don't course correct, we could find ourselves on the verge of being stood up only to be totally disqualified. I've seen many course corrections come down from the Federation. And so as that happens, that's what we do.
Okay, the ayes have it. So meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
This is the training meeting for the North Carolina Assembly, May 28th, 2024.
It's definitely not about me. And I'll tell you this. If this assembly ever feels that Dominic Battistella, as the coordinator, is dictating to you what you need to do or what you don't need to do, I'll give you guidance. I'll give you my suggestions. But at the end of the day, it's up to the assembly. It's up to the committees to debate and to come up with a solution and to bring it to the assembly for the final way in which this assembly is going to move forward. And if you ever think or believe that I'm dictating to you what you need to do and it's my way or the highway, then I expect you, the assembly, to stand up as living men and women to say, that's not what we want here in North Carolina. I don't believe I'm doing that. But if you believe I'm doing that, step forward, bring your evidence, present it to the entire assembly do yourselves a favor. Don't talk behind my back. Don't accuse me of doing something that I'm not doing. I'm a very compassionate, living man. I will bend over backward to do everything that I can to assist this assembly to succeed. Bring the evidence, bring it forward, bring it publicly, but don't sneak. Don't be a sneak. Be a living man, be a living woman, bring it forward. And address it as a committee as a whole. Social media, I'll tell you right now, I despise it. I've hated it my entire working career. I agree with the podcast that we have on Tuesday mornings, or Tuesday afternoons, because I like the idea that we have a direct connection with Anna, all right? But all the other podcasts, I tell you, sometimes I listen to it and I just shake my head because you know what? Some people that are on podcasts, some people that are on social media, you ought to do your homework before you start spousing what you're spousing. I don't profess to know everything. I'm still learning. I'm 3 years into this gig. I've learned a lot. I do my reading more than an hour a day. I analyze the things that Anna writes every single day. And a lot of times I get a different take on it than what you do on social media, whether it's Telegram, whether it's some chat channel or something else. There's a lot of them out there. TikTok, YouTube. There's a lot of misinformation. Be very careful because you're putting yourself in jurisdictions that you have no idea. You think you know, but you really have no idea what you're getting yourself into. So that's a little bit of a warning and some words to hopefully the wise. But I'd be very careful with social media. Here on North Carolina, there's only been one social media as a committee that we've endorsed, and that's Signal for emergency purposes only. You as individual living men and women, you can go out and do what you want because you can do it. But don't put North Carolina as this is what we're doing on North Carolina because you don't have the authorization to speak on the behalf of North Carolina because the North Carolina Assembly has not approved and endorsed what it is that you're out there espousing. We operate as a committee. The final word is the General Assembly on North Carolina with a vote of the people, for the people, by the people, their voice stating, yes, this is what we agree to. If you're out there on your own, you are out there on your own. That's an important piece for all North Carolinians, especially those of this assembly, to know and to understand. I hate to have these kinds of conversations, but I'll tell you what, I hate the one-on-one conversations that I have to have, and I despise the darts and the bullets that I have to take on a periodic basis from people that think that they know better than everybody else on the assembly. I don't dictate a darn thing on this assembly. I might make suggestions or recommendations, but it's the committees at the end of the day that decide and move it up to the General Assembly. And if anybody feels again that I'm a dictator, stand up in the General Assembly, put it on the agenda, and you know the process that we have. Because every single meeting, we lay out what the process is. And we expect that every single living man or woman follows the process. Nobody's been rejected when they followed the process. When you try to hijack the agenda, we may object, but that's because you're not following the process. Get it on the agenda, bring your evidence, bring it to the committee as a whole so it can be discussed. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Dominic. Questions, comments?
I have a question
Cynthia?
regarding the social media, the other stuff. Can we delete, close down, shut down everything that has been moved to the website? We're ready to do away with that. And then I think the understanding is we don't open anything else unless the assembly has voted it in. Is that my understanding? I yield.
That is accurate.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Dominic.
Man,
Yes, Robert?
I I don't want to be accused of coming to anybody's aid or anything. So Dominic, I'm not throwing this. This is not a life ring I'm throwing you here, but I am gonna put an analogy out there for people to kind of understand. And if you look at any 2-lane road, there's traffic going in each direction. And if you think about that road as being the de facto, you've got your left going one way, you've got the right, the liberals going one way, the conservatives the other, Republicans one way, Democrats the other, but everything is divided. And it's done so for reasons we've been over to ad nauseum. But what Anna has done is she has spotted a very worn, overgrown path off to the side. And if you just picture that road with a perpendicular path anywhere along it, that's where Anna has set out on her own, 25 years of doing what she's done, to go from one end of that path to the other, to know where that path goes. And she has done her best to avoid the obstacles and the pitfalls. And she's written that out. Now, in comes Dominic and all other coordinators. Your coordinator is there to watch that we remain on that path. We've all been invited to follow the path. We've been asked to do some things that you might think of as clearing the path. We're removing thorns and thickets, and even a few trees we've got to move out of the way because they're just blocking our transport. But we're working along that path. And when one person or one committee or one faction gets off of the path, it's your coordinator who's responsible for checking that and bringing you back on course. Dominic doesn't tell you what kind of greenery to put out of the way, and he doesn't tell you how big the trees have to be before you cut them down. We're doing all of the legwork. All he's doing is standing there making sure that you stay within the left boundary and the right boundary, and then moving into the same
Thank you, Robert. Very good. I know I let you go a little longer on protocol, but thank you for that sharing. Anthony?
I just got to say that basically at this point, there has been a lot of distractions, a lot of things that has prevented our coordinator from doing his job. And the biggest issue with that would be the assembly not learn to speak with each other and communicate properly. If we could all get on board, pick up the phone and speak with each other and communicate and get our facts together and straight, then we wouldn't be wasting half our time with half the objections and things that we've had to deal with the last couple of weeks. That's just my observation. If I'm wrong, by all means, tell me so. But that's what I've seen. So I just want to ask the entire assembly going forward, from this day forward, please learn to pick up the phone and talk with each other. Communicate before you take an action in anything. Don't jump to conclusions. Communicate. Because the main reason I say that is I heard Lisa on the podcast today, and that was the biggest thing she emphasized in the podcast, was that their assembly communicates. They work together. So let's do that and grow as an assembly. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Gwen?
So it sounds to me like, Anthony, you want to stifle the actual government workings. So we communicate through the meetings, and sometimes you can't just call somebody and talk it over. The whole assembly needs to participate in the conversation. So it kind of strikes me as you don't think the government, what we're trying to reestablish, should work the way that it's meant to work, is what I'm hearing.
That's
I
not
yield.
what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is a lot of people came at Niffy in regards to certain facts about her operations of business and work. And had they sent her a simple email asking what these things were, she could have simply replied with those facts and showed proof. And that would have eliminated half that conversation that was done. Because where you guys came in and thought it was true, it was false. And I feel that was a waste of the assembly's time. That's what I mean by communication. You're right. As committees, we should be communicating in our committees. But that's what we also have emails for. It's a written protocol of evidence. It's something to follow. That's what I mean by that.
So I object to your lecture. And no, you shouldn't have taken all of those requirements from that committee and made a call and talked it through with the committee. It was correct to object to it right at that time. And it was also correct to have the conversation. And that conversation could have ended in 5 seconds if someone would have answered the question that was asked. And I yield.
I object to that statement. And the reason I object to that statement is because at the end of the day, by the end of the entire conversation, the solution to that was you helping her provide the form that needed to necessarily assist her with the situation. If you'd have just done that in the beginning, we never would have had the conversation. Instead of showing all the things that you showed, just basically come to the solution. With that, I yield.
You can't come to a solution when somebody's arguing with you and telling you that you're wrong and that you're not, that they don't have an incorporated business. So your conversation is ludicrous. And yes, I did try to help, and I'm always here to help, but you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. And that's all there is to it. And I yield.
With that being said, did you allow that individual to
At this point, I'm going to call point of order.
Good.
It's high time we stop this.
Like,
NEFI has articles of incorporation out there. Unless someone can prove different, that ends this conversation. She is incorporated. She did step down. This is the end of this conversation. Unless someone has proof to bring to the table, we will not discuss this any further. NEFI Bali with the food church is incorporated. The articles of incorporation are out there. The public can see them. There's nothing private here. And I will restore decorum back to where we can talk and discuss. But this subject is over unless someone has proof. And bring your proof to the table. I don't want any more accusations. I don't want calling names. I don't want any of that. I will put you in a breakout room. I will eject you from the meeting. Unless you can prove differently, this subject is over.
We have a good understanding now of what we need to do to stand up our vetting committee. And the vetting committee is extremely important because as we've experienced, there's some things that we as an assembly have learned over the last couple of weeks. And I know sometimes people think that, things are a little bit stagnant. We're not moving as quickly as we should. Remember this, every time we have to take a step back and we learn something, that's actually the assembly moving forward. So with the vetting committee, we need to build out a committee.
Hello?
good morning, Gwen. It's NEFI. How are you?
Good morning, I'm fine.
I wanted to call you this morning because I wanted to let you know that I'm concerned about you serving on the vetting committee because I feel like I lack confidence in your ability to perform on the committee. And
That's fine. Vote against me, that's fine.
well, I just wanted to talk to you about it first. That's all. I just wanted you to know the reason. I just feel like when you're vetting.
I agree with you, and I speak up in the meetings. I already know the reason.
Actually, I'm not concerned about you speaking out against me or speaking your mind. That's actually not the truth. The truth is that when you're verifying information or vetting someone, then you should interview them. And when you interview them, then you should then go and verify the information they gave you and then go back with more questions with any entanglements or anything and, allow an opportunity for remedy. And then from there, decide, afterwards. But you can't just do an internet search on somebody and then not have a conversation with them. So I'm just going back based on my own experience that you never spoke to me about my business.
I didn't need to speak to you about your business. You were incorporated with the Secretary of State, and that you're not eligible to be a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't.
But you were missing a lot of other information, Gwen.
No other information matters.
Well, the other reason that I'm not confident and the other reason that I object to you being able to participate on the vetting committee is that you're in a house divided. That's a conflict of interest for our entire assembly.
Oh, well, whatever. You bring it up to the assembly and you bring up your concerns and let the people vote. It's not your choice.
That's right. Okay. I just wanted to call you first because we should always go to each other first.
That's fine. And you're judging me about vetting you and your business. I'm not part of the vetting committee yet.
I'm not judging you. I am telling you what you did and I am just stating the facts.
But I am also telling you what you did. You had an incorporated business.
I didn't
and
hide that. Everybody knew that, Gwen. That's the problem.
No, you denied it for the last.
I have never denied it. No, I have never denied it. It's actually.
You need to go back and listen to a couple of the meetings.
Gwen, I've never denied it. In fact, I really didn't even speak most of the time. I said nothing because whenever I did try to speak, then it was like I was receiving shouting matches. I don't do shouting matches.
No, not one time did I raise my voice during
Gwen, you berated me with your objection. First, you should have just said, we don't agree with this. I object. And you could have left it alone, but you didn't. So let's just start with that. And then you went on for a whole line of things, which I don't even remember all of them. I couldn't have even kept up with you because you didn't do things like in a fashion where I would be able to respond. And that was why I called it an attack.
There was no response required. I said 3 different things that were statements. I asked you one question.
But you made statements based on your observation and opinion, and you did not know the facts. That's all.
I made statements based on my observation.
Right.
That you had told us that, first of all, we don't need your guys' bios during the business meeting. This is a business meeting. This isn't a sales conference. You're not applying for a job. Did any other group ever sit and give all their bios to all their people? No. If you wanted us to know the bios of all of anybody on the International Business Pillar, then you could have made up a document. You could have put it on your International Business Pillar. You could have did it during your meeting and said, hey, if anybody's interested, we put bios there. So that's what I said, is I object to you doing that. And I object.
You didn't like the presentation. I get it.
You said that it didn't matter. No, there was nothing to do with the presentation.
You didn't like it. We hear you. I hear you.
You said, don't put words in my mouth. You can't put words in my mouth.
I don't know. You speak for me all the time, Gwen.
No, I don't speak for you.
You said I denied things, which I've never done. And the other part that's so funny about that is there are so many people Gwen.
Excuse me. I was not finished that. And you talk over people all the time. It's ridiculous. So I said, the other thing I said was, I hope you don't have an allegiance to the state of North Carolina. That is a problem, because when you gave your presentation, you said you in the International Business Group had, or however you said it, had an allegiance to the state of North Carolina. That's a problem. Your allegiance should not be to the state of North Carolina.
We're talking about our state. We're not talking about the state of state.
No, then you need to
So you misunderstood it. Okay.
No,
That's a misunderstanding. Gwen, the problem is that you want to fight with people and war.
Go back and listen to the recording. You said, we have an allegiance to the state of North Carolina. The state.
That's right. We meant our state.
No, it's not our state.
Okay.
We are North Carolina. You need to study harder. The state of North Carolina is the de facto state. Period. It's plain and simple. We're North Carolina. They're the state of North Carolina. It's all there is to it. And yes, maybe you said it wrong. I sometimes say it wrong. But you have to be aware of what you're saying, because words matter. Just like I used commandeer. That wasn't the exact word I should have used. I should have used a different word. I used it in the slang sense. You called me out on it. I said, you know what? She's right. I shouldn't have used that word. That doesn't change the fact of what I was saying. Did I take this to Anna? No, I didn't. Did you run to Anna with it? Yes, you did. Did you do an international public notice? Yes. Are we international? No. We're in the state. We're in our state. All in the same state. We're in North Carolina. It's nothing international about it. Did we give you a notice to your debt entity? Notice to principal is notice to agent. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Am I a corporation? I'm not. I'm a living woman, and I've declared I'm a living woman. And you say you're a living woman, and you say you know all of the stuff about standing on your own square and being sovereign, but obviously you don't, because obviously you're attacking my corporation entity. Hello?
I put an international notice out because I'm a public figure. You vetted me based on the internet.
I didn't vet you. No one vetted you.
You put a whole thing out with your objection, and you were putting information out without speaking with me, Gwen.
I have the right to put any information
That's
out.
right.
Prove me wrong on anything that I said. You called me a liar in your notice. You have no proof that I'm a liar. None.
Well, you don't know what my business was, and you made statements about it. You did. You said that I probably had contracts with the state, which I have none. You said I have licenses with the state, which I have none.
You did. You were incorporated.
That wasn't a license. That was not a license.
Read. It doesn't have to be a license.
You said it was. That's what I'm saying.
No, I didn't. I never one time said you had a license.
It's in writing.
Never one time did I say you had a license. Not one time.
It's all right.
Go back and listen to the recordings and read stuff, because you're seeing them through blurred eyes. Never once did I say you had a license. Never once do I need to know anything about your business other than you are incorporated through the state Secretary of State, period.
Did you ask Dominic about that? Did you ask him?
Did I ask him what?
About knowing if he knew about it? Because he asked me to do the International Business Pillar. I did not volunteer for it. And guess what? He gets his food from me. He knows all about what I do.
It doesn't matter, Neethi. It's not about your business. Good for you. Good on you that you have a booming business.
I didn't say it's booming. I didn't say any of those things. Okay, I said none of that.
You have a business. Good on you. That's great.
It's not me talking about like I'm great because I have a business, Gwen. What I'm trying to tell you is you acted like I tricked somebody, and I didn't. You made it sound like I was deceiving the assembly, which I was not. I never was. It's public. Yes, you said that I was denying that I had this, which is ridiculous. I talked about it on the podcast. No, I have told everybody about what I do, and I have never denied anything about it. So that was the problem.
Can I be this? You talked about it on the open podcast. Never one time did you disclose to Anna that you were incorporated.
Yes, I did. And she knew it. She knew, Gwen. It's also, yes, she did. She knew it. It's in my book. I sent her a copy of the book. I talk about it all the time. And you should listen to the podcast again. You should actually listen to every single one of them to hear how many times I talk about it, because I do.
Oh, I do listen to them, and it's very painful, but I do, because there's some information that I might want to deem out of there. But Anna doesn't get to make an exception for you. She doesn't get to make an exception for you on our state.
We weren't making any exceptions. The point, Gwen, listen to me. What we were doing was everyone who is coming home is coming out of the de facto. And everyone who comes home has to have time to disentangle. And I also asked, wait a minute, I asked, am I able to do this because I have this situation going on? I asked the coordinator, I asked Anna, I asked everybody if I could do it or not, because I was not a deceiver, but no one seemed to clarify that point.
Okay, there's probably...
All we had to do, Gwen, was say, hey, we're not ready for this right now, and we can just disband it. But that didn't happen. That's all I had to say about it. But as far as what I was calling you for, yeah, because it could have happened anyway. It could have happened without all of the 3 weeks of drama, okay?
Exactly who made the drama?
You did.
You made the drama.
No, I didn't. I never said any, no, I have always been doing everything to serve appropriately.
And you had a simple question. I made a move on the floor, and I said, let's suspend the International Business Pillar until Neethi has a chance to unincorporate her business, or somebody else steps up that wants to take it over. That was my move.
Right. And we honored you, Gwen. We honored you, and we did that at the next meeting because we never got a chance to even get to the meeting.
Fucking rude. It's not funny. I'm trying to talk to you and you talk over me constantly, like you do everybody. You talk over everyone. So I don't think that you're fit to be our international business pillar lead either. So
I'm not trying to be.
And I'll be voting against it. That's what my right is. But you claimed, go back and listen to the tapes. You claimed you only had a merchant account. You needed your merchant account because you had a.
I said I can't dissolve the business until I rectify and figure out what I'm going to do with the merchant account. That is what I said. You didn't hear all of that, but that's okay.
I heard it all. I've listened to it 15 times. I know.
Okay.
And I even told you how to try to, and then what did you do? You ran me through the coals on the international.
Because you don't know my business enough to know how to help me, and what you gave me wasn't helpful because I already had disentangled from the IRS, and you didn't seem to want to comprehend that part.
You were talking about the EIN number.
No, I was talking that whatever you sent me had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do only with my relationship with the IRS, which had already been disentangled. They already had disentangled with me.
That's funny because that's exactly the form we have to use for our assembly to change our EIN number, owner, and address. And that's exactly what the IRS told me was needed to do anything with your EIN.
Okay, well, I'm really sorry that you didn't know enough about what I had to deal with to know which things I needed. But now I have resolved that, so it's not even a problem. But I had to do other things to figure that out, but you didn't have all that information. So you wouldn't have possibly known that, okay? All I'm trying to say is you had a lot of words for things that you didn't know very much about. That's all.
You had a lot of words for things you didn't know very much about as well.
Well, I'm calling you because I wanted to clean it all up. And because you never made the effort to call me.
I didn't need to call you, Neethi.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
It was business.
Okay.
And if I could have, you really think that I should have listened to all of that stuff all those requirements for the international business pillar, and I should have sat quietly, let everybody hang up, and then I should have called you after and said, I don't agree with what you're doing on the international business pillar.
No, I don't think you can. I don't believe that there was any reason for you. You could have said what you said, but there was no reason for you to come after me as if I'm trying to do something wrong on purpose, because I wasn't.
If that's how you took it, that's fine. I wasn't. I was.
Okay, well, that's what I took it like, and a lot of other people did too. It was very uncomfortable for everybody. So anyway, it's fine. We all are alive. We all receive things differently. And so, fine. That's fine.
But
hey, it's fine. Everyone has a different, we all, and listen, we don't all have to agree about every single thing. What we need to be able to do is to get the courts up. I don't have to have anything to do with that for that to happen. I don't care who puts the courts up, Gwen. It doesn't matter. I don't need to be a part of it for the courts to get up. I'm happy to stand aside, which I did. And I did not quit. I stood aside. I stood aside because that's what was required. It's not like I just quit, like I walked off the battlefield, like I'm just not going to help. No, I walked away because I needed to walk away so that everybody can just do what they have to do. And anyone who listens to that recording will actually hear the rest of the story. There was a lot more to that. There was a lot more to that. All I'm saying is there was a lot more to that. And the other part of that is it became more about you trying to say that all I did was quit. No, I didn't just quit. I walked away so that the our nation, our North Carolina, however you want to call it, our assembly, so that they can just move. They need to be able to just move. If I'm standing in the way of it, I'm not trying to. And so I moved aside. That's all. That's all that happened.
But you said I quit. It doesn't matter.
No, he was asking me.
I quit.
Dominic was asking me to be able to still take care of whatever on the way out. And I'm like, listen to me. I can't do that and still run my business and do all the things. So I've got to walk. I mean, he wasn't comprehending that I can't just be working on something that people don't want me to work on. And if you listen to the whole thing, that was what was happening. And
I don't remember that being asked at all.
oh my God, Gwen, he was like, okay, between now and then, let's do blah, 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 blah. I said, listen, I can't do that. I can't keep doing this when they don't want me to participate. That's what I said. But you didn't hear the rest of it or want to hear it.
Listen, because I'm pretty sure I didn't hear that at all.
Well, I mean, listen, all the things he kept wanting me to be able to still help, try to, I don't know, step it down. And if I misunderstood him, then that also could have been a thing. But the reason I said it the way that I did, I made it plain for him. I'm like, they don't want me to be here.
That's not what you said. It doesn't matter.
No, I said that they don't want me to be here, and I shouldn't be here if they don't want me to be here right now.
And you know what? The sad part about it is it has nothing to do. I had no problem with you being the chair of the International Business Pillar and working to stand up. I literally had zero problem with you doing that.
Okay.
I had a problem with you all coming back and saying, here's all the requirements. No, there's 2 requirements. You have to be able to declare yourself a citizen with no allegiance to any other place, and you have to have reclaimed your birthright political status, period. That's it. And you
Right.
guys,
We were going to go back and change it if that's what was needed, and we're fine. We're happy being corrected, Gwen. There was no problem with that. The other part, no, there was no problem with that. The way that you came at me with that whole situation, you didn't like give us an opportunity even to just go back to committee. We weren't going to be able to meet again until the following Monday. And
that was the point.
okay, well, listen to me. There was a lot of things that didn't happen the way they should have. Why don't we just leave that alone?
We did. It should have. I made a move on the floor
There was nothing wrong with that. And I never said that there was, Gwen. There was no reason for you not to be able to object. Of course you can object. That's fine. Everything that went after that was just a little bit more crazy. That was different, okay? And you may not have intended it that way. Listen, you might not have intended it that way. I maybe shouldn't have received it that way, but I did. And you said you didn't. Fine. I believe you, okay? We have to be able to just believe each other on that. So I believe you. That's fine. I'm not sitting around hating GOberg, okay? I don't have the energy for that. And I don't have the energy for that in my life, and I don't operate that way. I don't sit around going, oh, here comes that Gwen. I don't think that, okay? All I needed
for you to put that I was a liar, and there's not one single thing in any of those objections that I lied about. Not one single thing.
First of all, you never spoke to me, Gwen.
But I didn't have to.
Okay, we get it. But you were saying things about what I do in my business, like I have contracts with the state, which I don't. So that was a lie, okay?
Contract with the state. I said you were incorporated, and read Anna's articles. If you're incorporated, you give your business.
Okay. Anyway, we've already resolved the fact that we realize that, but what you seem to never believe is that I was not hiding that. I have never hid it. I'm a public figure. Everything I do is in front of everybody on blast, okay? And you can believe it or not believe it. It doesn't change the fact, okay? Also, do you think I don't know that everybody can't just go to state and look it up? It's not a secret. I never tried to hide it. It was never that I intentionally was trying to hide anything from anybody. And the other part of it is everybody who participates in what I do knows that because I tell them, here is how I'm structured. This is why. This is what I'm doing. This is why I need to operate that way. Because they're trying to, listen, Gwen, what they're trying to do. Well, I'm trying to finish saying something. And all I was trying to tell you is that the way that the state of state de facto operates is if they can control the food, they can control the people. I think you know that. And that is the reason why I don't participate with them and I don't comply. It was the reason that I created the nonprofit in the first place because I did not know any other way to do it at that time. And so I did what I knew, which was to create a church, because did you know if you have a church, you can say whatever you want to say and you can feed anybody anything you want to feed them? Did you know that? According to the de facto rules, I'm just telling you. And so
503(c)s or whatever.
501c3. So in any case, I literally only did that because it was the only way for me to be able to operate and support the farms. That's all. And anytime, okay, listen. And as I find a way to get out of the different things, I've been doing that. And that's why the last thing I had to figure out was how to fix the bank thing. And I was finally able to do it in the way that I needed to, which wasn't involving really the situation that you thought. And then I finally was able to get it done. And Anna helped me figure that out with Lisa. Like, we talked about it again. I was like, okay, well, here's the actual problem. And this is what I'm trying to figure out. And then I had to make some phone calls, and, you know, they were like, oh yeah, we can change that. That's not a problem. But I never had that solution before. So anyway, I'm not trying to war with you, Gwen. I'm never going to war with you. I'm not at war with you. And I definitely do not want you to be muzzled and not say what's on your mind. Never. And listen, we can both get on each other's nerves with our voices. We can also not have to be best friends or nothing. I don't need you to be my bestie. What we need is to just stand our state up. And I think we both really want to do that.
That's my goal. I gave up 3 years of my life to do that.
Okay, well, I've been doing that for 15 years and wanting to make it better, and finally found a solution with Anna and was so excited about it. So here we are.
Well, and that's great, but here we are too. I listen week after week after week of you putting North Carolina Assembly down on the podcast.
I don't talk about the North Carolina Assembly ever. I don't mention the North Carolina Assembly at all. I never use the words North Carolina Assembly.
Right, but you
I don't know what you're taking as a put down, because I'm talking to her about things that are happening in other places. And generally, it's people who don't have a voice, and it's not us. Because
no one understands, you say all the time. This is what no one understands. No one understands.
I'm not talking about you guys here. Why are you feeling like I'm talking about you? I'm not talking about you. I don't sit in our committee. Hey, did you know, Gwen? I'm not on anybody's committee. I don't come to the committee meetings. I don't know what y'all talk about in our committee. The only thing I ever hear is what's on Tuesday night in the assembly. I have nothing negative to say about it. I don't have anything I can talk about. I don't know what you mean. Everything I'm talking about, do you have any concept of how many emails and everything else I get from everywhere around in the country and even the world? Because Australia, Canada, everybody's trying to get information from Anna. I'm not talking about this place. I feel like Dominic's got you guys taken care of. I don't pay attention to what's going on here. I am looking at what other people need help with everywhere else. I'm sorry that you think that I'm talking about you, but I'm not. When I say you, I just mean North Carolina. I'm not. I don't know what's happening over here. I feel like we're supposed to have our stuff together over here.
Well, we are an assembly divided.
But it's not because I'm sitting here trying to divide you. I'm not.
I'm going to explain to you why I feel like we're divided. We put in a legitimate objection, few of us. Right. We were chastised by who? Your people that are on your podcast and in your food church. Anthony, Lavelle, Loria, who's supposed to remain non-partisan. She's supposed to be the unbiased person. She didn't. She put in all kinds of comments. We have all kinds of things. And there was another person. Oh, Tess. She didn't say a lot, but she does. You shouldn't have never put objections in. What do you think that does to people that are new on the assembly?
What about the new people that think that they shouldn't watch the podcast because Neethy's on it? It's Neethy's podcast. It's not my podcast. It's Anna's. There's a lot of chaos and confusion, Gwen. And listen, for someone who is as well read as you are, then you have to know too that, okay, whoever it is that you're saying that did this and my people and your people and whatever, look, when there is some kind of feeling that there is someone being attacked, you know what? Everyone should stop, and we should all be focused on growing and developing each and every person in there. Everybody who's in there should be just being grown and developed. They should feel free to be able to make a mistake, to be able to say something wrong and go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. But it isn't like that, because if they feel like they're going to get jumped on, and you might not realize that that's what you did. You might not realize that that's how it felt. I can tell you that's what it felt like to me. Okay. And I felt like, wow, everybody's giving their, you know what I was feeling for a long time, Gwen? I was feeling like we don't ever talk about the International Business Assembly, and no one seems to know anything about it. And I wanted an opportunity to be able to teach everybody about it, because if you're a state citizen, you're just part of the assembly already. It's not like I get to choose who's in and who's not in.
So you say that, but I'm a citizen on LRO, and I never got an invite to one meeting.
I wasn't even I was being told how to put the meetings together, and I wasn't even, first Cynthia was like, let's try to do it on Telegram. Maybe this will be cheaper than Zoom. I said, I have a Zoom account because I use it for work. So I have it. I have no problem using it. She's like, well, let's try this. Okay, we did that for a little while. Then the tech guys were like, we can't upload these meetings properly or whatever. And so we're not going to use that anymore. And I need you to use Zoom. I'm like, fine, I'll put it on Zoom. I don't have a problem with anybody who wanted to come to pay attention and do it. It seemed like nobody was really interested. And I didn't have the luxury, Gwen, of going through all the people who are declared and knowing who's ASC and who's not. I don't have a roster. I don't have access to it. I don't have any way to know that, and so nothing was stopping Dominic maybe from saying, hey, anybody who wants to come to this, if you're an ASC, you're welcome to come to these meetings, because that is the assembly. It's an assembly. It's not a committee. And it wasn't said. I don't have the, roster, the power, whatever you want to call it, to really say anything to anybody about it. And so I was only speaking based on what I could say, right? That's all. I didn't have any other information. And I also, for a long time, there wasn't very much to say. I had been asking Anna about it, and she was like, I'm not going to write articles about this. I'll talk to you, because this is a pillar that we don't talk about, and we're not going to write articles about it. And just like there's aspects of the militia that we're not going to write articles about, that those are happening, like with the Continental Marshals meetings, or with the, oh my gosh, what's Joe? Goodness. The peacekeeper group. So, like a lot of that knowledge or whatever is coming through those channels and not, this way. And so let's work on it. And so, I'm still working on the handbook with her, and we're still going to have the handbook for everybody to use. And that has nothing to do with anything else. And I don't know, I just felt like, okay, I'm listed as this thing. I should probably share some information. And at one of the meetings, like Robert Scott was saying, he didn't know anything about, the actual side effects of, I don't know what he was talking about. Like, was it 5G or something? And I was like, oh, I guess these folks don't really know that, what we know. Like, we should share what we know. We should share what we have experience with, not because, hey, I'm smarter than you are or something like that. No, it's just like, listen, if you need to know how to shoe a horse, Gwen, and you don't know how to shoe a horse, and you try to shoe a horse without knowing how to shoe a horse, you could get maimed or killed. That horse will kill you if you have to know things. So I felt like, oh, we should let everyone have confidence in there are people who are, trying to serve them. Why don't we just share some of the things that we know? I didn't have time to put it in writing and get it to Dominic and get it all out and blah, blah, blah. And so I felt like, oh, I can just read it. I could just share it. I wasn't trying to do anything to upset anybody. And I wasn't trying not to post it or share it. I just thought, oh, this is a way everybody can start to get to know all of us. That's all. That's all my intentions were. So anyway, it's come a really long way. There's no reason for us to keep going back and, back and forth and back and forth. I just want, I wanted to call you. I wanted you to know what I'm thinking about. I wanted to be open with you about whatever it is. I'm not trying to, this is, I don't ever want you to feel like, oh, I'm just coming after Gwen. I don't like her or something. That's ridiculous. We don't need wars. So I appreciate you taking my call today.
Yeah, and I think here's feedback from me. When your business incorporation was brought up, all you had to say was, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was a problem. Let's look into it. But no, you said, I'm not incorporated.
I didn't say I'm not incorporated, Gwen. I said everyone knew that I was incorporated, and they said that we just wanted to get some work done on the pillar. And if I can't serve with it, I can't serve. And that was really it. And I'm so sorry that this misunderstanding continued to happen.
I don't remember any of those words happening, and I don't remember that calm of a thing. And
It wasn't calm. It was a lot going on, and a lot of that wasn't just from me. And that was the reason why I felt like I didn't even have the ability to even speak. Okay? And so that was how I felt. That is, that was just real. I'm just letting you know what it was. And I was trying to get it out. And that's why when we finally went back to committee, then I was like, listen, if I'm not supposed to be able to do this, or none of us, and we figured none of us were qualified. Everybody in the whole freaking thing. Except probably Solomon. He was probably the only one because he's retired. So everybody else is working, and everybody else is, because we found out that Lavelle had an LLC. And, my husband sits on the board with me. So now we're both clean. But before that, we weren't. And so, yeah, that was the situation.
Yep, and that was exactly what I asked. If you go back and listen, I said, are you incorporated? And if you are, then I make a move that the International Business Pillar be put on suspension until Neefi has a chance to correct that, or somebody else steps up. That was my move.
All right. Well, now it's all cleaned up, Gwen. And I've never felt like you shouldn't want to protect the assembly, just by the way. I think that we have to protect it, and all of us do need to make sure and clarify. I did feel like the way that you said it that day was an attack. That's all. And
it was a question.
Okay, well, the question, it was all the stuff that came behind the question, okay?
Before the question.
All I'm saying is there was a bunch of stuff that came behind the question. So it just felt very personal and not about just the fact that I had the incorporation. That's all, okay?
So you don't think that all of the attacks, that all of the stuff that was written and all of the stuff that was said and done, you don't think that like I could have taken that all as a personal attack?
Listen, there was attacks going both ways. And I just said we can go back and forth and keep looking back, or we can just move forward and squash it.
Right, but I'm just saying, you're saying I felt personally attacked. I'm like, how do you think? Anthony sat on the meeting and said, how do you think Neefi feels? You know what? I'm sorry how Neefi feels, but how do you think the objectors feel? And how do you think that you're smushing anybody who's ever going to object in the future? They're all sitting back there shaking in their boots like, oh my God, I'm never going to say anything.
And so are the people who would want to come up and be speakers for any of the other committees. I mean, listen, we have a very young assembly, Gwen, and all of us need to all take it down a notch probably, okay? It probably would be nice for everyone to do that. Because what we all need to agree is that we all want to win together.
Well, that's exactly what our goal is. If we want to continue to operate like we're de facto, and we should be going back to the district assembly and trying to change the de facto world. Exactly.
So that means that we need to all be a lot more loving and a lot more caring, and we need to all operate in a whole lot more grace. So there isn't any of that, there's no feeling of that. So let's not keep going back and forth. Let's not keep going back, Gwen. Can we move forward?
We can move forward, but you still got to look at the past of what happened in the past to move forward.
I mean, you can look at the past, which me and you have dissected to death, or we could just move forward and don't repeat it.
So don't repeat it by don't object to anything?
No, I'm not saying don't object. I never said you shouldn't have objected. All I was saying is we could have more grace.
Oh, I don't think I didn't give you grace.
Okay, well,
I didn't say,
hey,
kick me out of the assembly because she deceived us. I said, if she's incorporated, we need to put it, we need to stop the international business pillar until that gets rectified.
right. You didn't say that, Gwen, but that's how a lot of other people did. And that's what happened.
Go back and listen to what my move was. Go back and
I'm not
listen
saying
to-
you didn't say that, Gwen. I'm saying it launched something else. That's what I said.
I agree.
Okay.
But our
We
opinion
can't control all these other people. I don't have any control over any of these other people any more than you do. The only thing we can control is ourselves.
That's exactly right.
Okay, well, let's teach them. Let's work together and teach them. I'm recording this, and I think this is a teaching conversation. I think it's a really good conversation for everyone to listen to and see that there's a way for all of us to just squash it. Listen, when we were kids growing up on the playground, we didn't always get along about a lot of things, and we didn't always all do everything just nice, but we also knew how to leave it right there on the playground.
That's right. And I thought we also agreed that we were going to disclose when we were recording each other on the assembly.
I always said that I'm always recording.
That's true. And I figured you probably were. So
Right. It's no secret.
My bad.
And then we have nothing. I mean, what do we have to hide? What are we hiding?
yeah, we don't have anything to hide, but we have an assembly that needs a lot of learning and a lot of
Sure they do. They're young and they're just coming in off the street. But we can't make them feel like we're just jumping them every time they say the wrong words, like the, North Carolina state, because we are also a nation state. And so, sure, okay, I said it in the wrong order or whatever, maybe. We all are having to practice using the better words, but there's no reason to jump somebody in a meeting and say, hey, your allegiance is to the state of state? No. Why would you assume that? Obviously, we're here in the assembly. And, that's a whole different thing. Let's stop keeping going back with the...
different, because that's all learning. That's just like...
Right. We need to fix our education programs. We need better programs. We need better things. But we can't make something when we don't know it ourselves. We're working on it. Everybody's working on it.
If it doesn't get brought to your attention when you say it, then you're never going to be able to operate in it.
Right. But when it comes, you're right. But when it comes up, then it needs to come up in a way that is a lot more loving. That's all.
Well, and we're not in a kumbaya.
That's right.
Club. We're a government.
Okay. And absolutely. So in the business meeting, there should be a lot more, but there still should be more. I find that what's happening is there is no moderation that is the same across the board. And there should be clarification with the moderation, because if me and you aren't understanding each other because of whatever could have happened when you said what you said and what I said, then the moderator can say, hey, this is what I'm hearing going on. Are we all clear with that? There could be a reiteration. So that would help. That would help clean a lot of things up.
That's not how it's set up to operate.
Okay, well, that's what moderation ought to be. It ought to be, okay, wait a minute. This is what we're hearing. Let's get clarity and just ask more questions. Because I've been in business for a long time. And there's plenty of times when presentations are made or whatever is going on, and we need clarity. So that means we got to ask a lot more questions. But we don't operate on assumptions. And if this is a business of government, there's no reason. It's not about kumbaya when you're asking questions. You're just trying to seek clarity and get down to the root of something. But you got to ask the questions one at a time. Let's get the answer for this. Let's get the answer for this. Let's get the answer for this. And we don't have to rush it. We just need to slow it down a minute. So anyway, we all have a lot to learn.
That's true. I've been doing it for almost 3 years every day. I study every single day, and I still have things to learn.
Right. And I've been operating it for 15 years outside of the corporatocracy, and still I was...
Not in the assembly realm, you haven't. Not
I never said that I was. What I'm saying is I still have been outside of the corporatocracy more than other people. And I have already gone up against the de facto and won. So when we decide to put our shingle out of government, they're going to come hard and mean. And it's not going to be pretty. And we all need to be formidable.
I don't think that. I think once we do
Okay.
what we're doing and we put our shingle out, I think they're going to know that they have to step down. And I'm not saying it's going to be unicorns and roses, but, you know, we're going to have to know how to stand.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to know how to stand. If they come after us, we're going to have to know how to stand.
Right. All right. Well, Gwen, I have my daughter waiting because we have an appointment this morning, but I appreciate you taking my phone call. I'm going to post this so that everybody can hear it. And I appreciate you working with me to, you know, we just need to squash whatever this is between us.
There's nothing between us. This is completely business. It's not personal.
I mean, it's a business squashing. It's a business thing. We're having to fix our business relationship. And that's all. That's all I was hoping for.
I got you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.